Our next speaker is Bert Knorr. Bert he wears multiple hats. He's the co-chair of the Peace in Ukraine Coalition. He's a representative on the National Democratic Socialists of America International Committee. He's also a participant. He was a participant in the International Conference for Peace in the Ukraine that was held in the summer of 23 in Vienna, Austria.
And I have to say that's extremely difficult to follow these two amazing women that spoke earlier. And I'm just honored to be on a panel with you all. And are you ready to hear more about Ukraine? Amir stole some of my thunder there, but there is more to talk about. Let me start by saying the war in Ukraine is not the good war. It's not the good. We were led to believe this is a good war we can all get behind. Sadly, too many fucking people got behind it and bought the lies that we were fed. But I think most of you know about these lies, and we can get to that later. I want to start by talking about the current situation. It's kind of no longer the forgotten war, and that's emerged over these last several weeks. A couple of different factors. Number one, the U.S. and NATO are losing the war. They are losing the war, and they are increasingly desperate. And there is no way they can win this war without boots on the ground or nuclear war. And there's a real danger of that. Now, sadly, many of the people of our generation remember, the 80s when we felt like we were on the brink of nuclear war. And there was a big movement that emerged globally, in particular in Europe. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was early stage Alzheimer or Nancy Reagan's influence, Reagan and Gorbachev achieved a détente, and they made some arms agreements. So most young people, it's kind of nuclear war. What is that? I mean, people are concerned about global warming, or I should say climate change, and see that as an existential issue. Certainly, nuclear war is an existential issue. And what we've witnessed in these last weeks, the demented president of the United States, and people ask, who's really making these decisions? Who's running the country? Who's running the foreign policy? Well, it sure as shit isn't Genocide Joe. He can barely put one foot in front of another. He can barely get two sentences out. And it was almost like there was this huge sigh of relief when he stepped down, because Kamala Harris at least could put two or three sentences together. And she was younger, and she wouldn't trip over her own feet getting off of the podium after a speech. Low bar, honestly. What Biden is bequeathing in these last waning weeks of his administration is massive and serious escalation, which puts us on a trajectory toward possible nuclear war with Russia. That's the reality of the situation. That's the situation we're facing. And he's done that by a couple of things. One is, you may remember as the war went on early on, Ukraine said they need tanks, and Biden said, well, I don't know, it might escalate and provoke Russia, and then eventually gave the tanks. No, we really need F-16s. He eventually gave the F-16s. So there's all these different weapon systems that have served to further escalate the war that initially were considered too dangerous, but in the end, he gave them. And this latest round of ATACMS missiles, which have the ability to strike deeply into Russia, are the latest step, which really is risky business. And I don't know if it was mentioned, but basically from Russia's perspective, first of all, Ukraine can't fire these missiles by themselves. They don't have the technical ability. They don't have the intelligence. And I mean intelligence, i.e. knowing where the targets are, the satellites overhead and all that, not the brain power. But so basically NATO, I should say American troops and NATO military, because we also have Britain, which got green-lighted to give their Storm Shadow also long-range missiles to Ukraine for them to fire on Russia. So what this means is American boots on the ground. And what is Russia's response to this has been so far? It's been the Oreshnik missile. How many people have heard about this new missile, the Oreshnik missile? So what's the danger of this? It's an intermediate range nuclear missile. No, I'm sorry, missile, ballistic missile. Actually, it's not even a ballistic missile. It's more dangerous than that, in that it's fired and you can dynamically target the different warheads. There's multiple warheads out of this missile, and it's a hypersonic missile, which is faster than the missiles that have preceded it, and there is no air defense for it. The air defense hasn't kept up with it. So basically what this means is there's a missile that can be targeted very specifically and cannot be defended against, which means that American troops on the ground or British military on the ground that are firing these missiles can be directly targeted. So what that presents is the danger that, well, you know what happens if an American is killed in combat. It's an automatic response. So there's a spiral of escalation that can ensue as a result. And that's what we're facing. The other thing is, do you remember Zelensky's victory plan? A couple of months ago, he was talking about a victory plan. Well, his victory plan was to get cruise missiles. Cruise missiles are nuclear capable. And that's what he really wants, because these ATACMS have a range of maybe 150 to 200 miles, which can't hit all the way to Moscow. There's been 6 of them fired so far, but none of them have been fired since this Oreshnik, which was, it was like a test. It wasn't nuclear armed, but it struck a weapons facility in Ukraine. And even with the normal warheads, actually, just the impact of the missile actually is incredible. And I don't know if you've seen any video clips, but there's videos of it, and it's some heavy shit. So, and the U.S. doesn't have a defense for it at this point. So, so let me say one other thing. I'll say a few more things. How are we doing time? Trump's election. Okay, does the election of Trump mean that there's a possibility for peace? And I know Trump has been talking, some of the words out of his mouth were, all these thousands and thousands of people have died. We need to stop this. This could lead to World War III, coming out of Trump's mouth. Now, I might note that, number one, you might remember Trump's, first it was fire and fury threatening North Korea, and he was calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man. And he actually met with Kim Jong-un, saw a possible Nobel Peace Prize there if he was able to make peace with North Korea. Well, what happened to that? What happened to that? Nothing. Nothing came of it because, and we've heard about the deep state. I mean, he had John Bolton, who was a neocon, as Trump has said since then, never met a war he didn't like. Since then, he surrounded himself with Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, his national security advisor also, and they're all neocons. The only one who might not be considered as a neocon is Tulsi Gabbard, who actually has been good on this issue, and she's also been good on mass surveillance. She supported Snowden and Chelsea Manning and wanted to get them pardoned and not charged, and she's spoken out against it. And also she has spoken out against the danger of war with Russia. On the other hand, she's an Islamophobe. So she's good on those issues, but pretty horrible on everything else. She's tied to Moody's party, the Hindu nationalist party in India. And if you actually hear the things she says about Palestine and Israel and Hamas, it's really bad. It's really bad. It's no better than any of the other Israel supporters that have been in Biden's administration or in Trump's administration. So he surrounded himself with all these people. Number two, if you remember, there was a vote that came up for $90 billion. And this was, I don't know, maybe 6-9 months ago. It was before the election. And what it was a big package where they had, I think there were like 18 billion for Israel in there. There was like about 4 or 5 billion for China. And there was $60 billion for Ukraine. And the Republicans decided, well, if we lump all these things in together, we might not be able to get them passed. So let's separate them out. So there was a moment there where Trump could have stopped that from going through. The 60 billion for Ukraine, he could have stopped it going through, and he folded. And one other thing is Lindsey Graham, another neocon war hawk from years ago. How am I doing for time, by the way? 5 minutes, okay. Time goes by. So number one, I just want to make the point. Lindsey Graham's talked about rare earth metals. Ukraine has these rare earth metals that are extremely valuable. And if you know Trump, you know, it was like he was against the war in the Middle East until he realized he could seize the oil. Well, let's just take the oil. Let's just take the oil. So now Lindsey Graham is dangling these rare earth metals in front of him. So we don't know. I mean, Trump is a loose cannon, and we certainly can't rely on him to do the right thing. He's not as committed to the war, and he can blame it on Biden. Biden has created a more difficult situation for Trump, and also Russia's kind of got the upper hand right now in terms of negotiations. They aren't necessarily in a mood to make concessions. But one thing that's notable is that Zelensky at this point is actually talking about possibly ceding some territory to Russian control as a de facto thing, not recognizing recognizing the sovereignty of Russia. But he used to talk about not a single mile, not a single inch of Ukrainian territory. And he's had to move off of that because people see where this is headed and they're trying to cut their losses and stay in power. So, okay. One other thing I wanted to know, I think the interconnectedness is very important. People heard about Georgia. Okay. We're not talking about Jimmy Carter's Georgia. We're talking about the Republic in Central Asia. Actually, it's in Europe, I guess. And there, you might remember there was a coup that in 2014 that overthrew the democratically elected government. How many people remember that in this room? There was a tape of Video Nuland basically picking the next leader of Ukraine. This is well documented. Well, and that's kind of provoked a series of events that led to the war. After that, Crimea broke away, and the parts of the Donbass came under attack from the Russian-speaking people, and Russian-speaking territories came under attack from the Ukrainian government. So anyway, it's like history is repeating itself now in Georgia. There was an election in Georgia. The Georgia Dream Party, which was the opposition, which is the anti-war party, I should say, that didn't support, the war, won the election by 53 to 38%. And now, as a result, there's been popular protests that being spurred on by U.S.-aligned NGOs. The president of Ukraine has unilaterally said she's just continue on as president. This thing is fraudulent. So this is going on now in Ukraine. And by the way, Georgia and Ukraine are red lines for Russia. And they've repeatedly said this in negotiations with the United States. And first in 2008, George Bush proclaimed that, well, we're gonna bring Georgia and Ukraine into NATO. It's just a matter of time. So this is happening also. And I think it's important to understand the interconnectedness of all these things. One thing is, I should say that there was a day of action that we had in October. It was the first week in October. It was the week before October 7th. And we had about 50 actions around the country. In fact, there was a panel in Washington, D.C. that included Cornel West, Claudia de la Cruz, Medea Benjamin, and several other speakers, had several hundred people at it. There were about 50 actions around the country. We did it in conjunction with the United National Anti-War Coalition, UNAC. We had about, 80 or 100 people. That was the best we could muster. And then October 7th happened, and after that was the massive outpouring of people in support of the Palestinian people. And now the 80 or 100 people that we were able to get out became thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands worldwide. So most of us in that period pivoted to working on Palestine. you know, and I think rightly so, given that that was a central question at that point in time. But right now, there is some activity. Medea Benjamin, I don't know if people have been following Medea in the halls of Congress. She's been amazing, bird dogging these politicians, Democrats, Republicans, putting them to shame. Today, she was there with Scott Ritter. People know Scott Ritter, anti-war activist, was very vocal in the buildup to the Iraq War. Anyway, you see the two of them standing together. Medea's about 5'0" and Scott Ritter's about 6'5". Anyway, they went and they met with several congressmen, and there's a bill that they're trying to get passed that actually was already in process they didn't know about, to reverse Biden's decision to send these long-range missiles. And I don't, let's see, I've got the number of it offhand. But anyway, if you go to our website, I got 1 minute, peaceinukraine.com, there's several links there which you can use to call or email congressmen and so on. In England today, there's the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament is calling for several actions against these long-range missiles and back from the brink exercise. So anyway, if you're interested in this stuff, and also my email is up on the peaceinukraine.org website under Speakers Bureau. You can reach out to us. But in any case, I think the important thing I want to come back to is the connectedness of these movements. And there is Inauguration Day demonstration. There's one that's being planned in DC for January 20th, and it's here in San Francisco on January 19th. And it includes PSL, Answer, Code Pink, DSA, and a whole bunch of other groups that are coming together to fight the right and the right-wing agenda. And it's really critical, I believe. I know people talk about an independent party, and I'm there in terms of the Democratic Party being fucked up. I think we need to be thinking about building the mass movement at this point in time. That's going to be key, and it's going to be key to whatever happens in the electoral space. And I think this January 19th, January 20th is a critical step forward, not for the fake resistance that happened from the Democrats under Trump's first term, but a real resistance that opposes, all of the crap that's going to be coming down from the right wing. Immigrants' rights is going to be a big issue. Women's rights is certainly a big. There's a lot of different issues. I think we need to center the struggle against militarism and imperialism and the connections between all these different wars. So if people can keep that in mind, and I'm sure if you on any of our websites, you'll see information about it. If you're on a mailing list about this action, it'll be January 19th in San Francisco. Details still TBD. The organizing is going on now. So anyway, I'm probably at the end of my time. I'd be happy to take questions later. I know there's a lot about the history of how we got into this and what the U.S.'s role was in it that I haven't spoken to. And I think people are probably somewhat aware of that, the people in this room anyway. But that's and also Amir also spoke to that a little bit. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to me, and all power to the people, smash imperialism, stop the war machine.